In an unexpected and shocking moment, the life of a wealthy woman collapses in unimaginable ways. Cemetery workers, perplexed and incredulous, find her alive inside a coffin. The horror and tension are palpable as she opens her eyes, her trembling voice revealing a devastating secret. This secret not only turns her world upside down but also exposes dark truths that no one could have foreseen. Helena, a 38-year-old woman, possessed stunning beauty and immense fortune. Married to Raphael, she lived in an opulent mansion that exuded luxury and power. However, behind the golden walls, her life was a painful contrast. Her relationship with Raphael was shrouded in cutting coldness, marked by agonizing silences and empty gazes that echoed the distance between them. "Raphael, we need to talk," said Helena, her voice trembling and laden with a sadness she could barely disguise. Raphael lifted his eyes to her, but his gaze was distant, lost in an abyss of thoughts. "About what, Helena?" he replied, not hiding his indifference. "About us, about how we've grown apart," she murmured, as tears began to well up in her eyes, reflecting the pain she felt. Those words, laden with despair and vulnerability, cut through the air like a blade. Raphael sighed deeply, averting his gaze, unable to face the truth. "Helena, I don't think we have much to discuss. We're just—" He hesitated, searching for words that might ease the tension. "Living our separate lives as always." The pain Helena felt was overwhelming, almost unbearable. "But it doesn't have to be this way, Raphael. I still love you. I want to save our marriage, our life together," she pleaded, finally letting the tears fall. Raphael finally faced her, his eyes showing a fraction of emotion, a glimpse of who he used to be. "Helena, maybe it's too late. I don't know if there's still in us to save," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. Helena's heart shattered, tears streaming freely down her face. Helena had always been very vain. She loved to dress well and dazzle everyone around her with her elegance. However, lately something had changed. She started spending more time at home, lost in thought, distant from the sparkle and glamour that once surrounded her. Sitting on the porch of her mansion, Helena gazed at the horizon with a lost look. Her friend Clara, noticing the change, decided to visit. "Helena, are you okay?" Clara asked, concerned. "I'm fine, Clara. I've just been thinking a lot lately," Helena replied with a sad smile. "Thinking about what?" Clara insisted, sitting beside her. "About my life, my marriage with Raphael. I feel like something important is missing," Helena confessed, looking at the ground. "You're not alone, Helena. I'm here for whatever you need," Clara said, holding her friend's hand. Helena smiled, feeling a small comfort in Clara's words. Even with all the wealth in the world, she knew what she needed most was real and sincere connections. Raphael had always been an ambitious man. Since he was young, he dreamed of a life of luxury and power, something far beyond the possibilities of his humble beginnings. He grew up in a small town, the son of a laborer and a housewife. The family struggled to survive, and Raphael vowed to himself that he would never live that way. Determined to study, he earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. It was there that he learned the art of manipulation and persuasion, skills he would use to climb the social ladder. His charm and intelligence made him popular, and he soon began to move in higher circles. It was at one of these high society parties that he met Helena, a wealthy and dazzling woman, and saw in her the opportunity to finally achieve the lifestyle he had always desired. Helena quickly fell for Raphael. He was attentive, charismatic, and seemed genuinely interested in her dreams and desires. After a brief romance, they got married. However, Raphael never set aside his true nature. The ambition that drove him also consumed him, and soon he began to feel trapped in his marriage. During a business trip, Raphael met Marina, a woman as ambitious as he was. Marina came from a wealthy family but wanted more than to just live off her inherited fortune. She wanted to build her own empire and saw in Raphael the perfect partner for this. The two became lovers, united by their desire to conquer more and more. Together, they began to plan a way to take Helena's fortune. The plan was simple. Raphael would regain Helena's trust and manipulate her into signing documents that would transfer her fortune to him and Marina. One afternoon, in a discreet cafe, Raphael and Marina met to discuss the final details of their plan. "Raphael, we need to act quickly. Helena is getting more suspicious," said Marina, looking around nervously. As they planned, Raphael couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. Helena, the woman who had given him everything, would now become the key to his ultimate freedom. He squeezed Marina's hand firmly, convinced that nothing could go wrong. Raphael and Marina sat at an isolated table in the back of a discreet cafe, far from curious eyes. They had something very serious to discuss and knew they needed to be careful. "Raphael, we need to decide when and how we're going to do this," said Marina, her voice a tense whisper. "We can't risk looking suspicious." "I know, Marina. Helena's death needs to look like the perfect accident, something no one can question." Raphael replied with a dark look. Marina frowned, thinking about the various possibilities. "Maybe a fall down the stairs or a car accident," she suggested. "No, a fall down the stairs is too common. We need something more convincing, something that seems completely out of our control." Raphael pondered, drumming his fingers on the table. Marina looked around, making sure no one was paying attention to them. What if it was a domestic accident? Something in the kitchen, maybe? She suggested, trying to be practical. "It could be an idea. Maybe a gas leak. Something that looks like a tragic and unpredictable accident," Raphael said, his eyes gleaming with cold determination. "Yes, a gas leak could work. We need to make it look like Helena was alone, that it was an unfortunate mistake." Marina agreed, her voice firm. "Exactly, and we need to have a solid alibi for both of us. We'll be at a public event, surrounded by witnesses," Raphael added, planning every detail meticulously. "When will we do this?" Marina asked, her voice a bit shaky. "In 2 weeks. That gives us enough time to prepare everything without raising suspicion," Raphael decided, his tone resolute. Marina nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. She knew there was no turning back now. Both were committed to the plan, and Helena's fate was sealed. Helena was sitting in her mansion's room, looking out the window as the rain gently tapped against the glass. In recent days, she had felt a growing unease, a sense that something was terribly wrong. Raphael was more distant than ever, and small details began to form a disturbing picture in her mind. She remembered the happy moments she had shared with Raphael, the seaside walks, the laughter during luxurious dinners, the whispered promises in the dark. These moments were now tainted by suspicion and disappointment. Every memory felt like a cruel lie. "How could I have been so blind?" Helena whispered to herself, feeling a tear roll down her face. She recalled the night Raphael came home late, smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers, the calls answered in secret, the evasive looks. Marina, the friend who always seemed to be around, now revealed herself as an accomplice. Helena began to piece things together, the whispered arguments she occasionally overheard between Raphael and Marina, the strange behavior of both. And have you seen or heard of cases similar to Helena's? Share your experience in the comments, and don't forget to check if you're already subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Helena was in the hallway, about to go down the stairs, when she heard whispered voices coming from Raphael's office. Her curiosity made her stop, and carefully, she approached the ajar door. She immediately recognized the voices. It was Raphael and Marina, speaking in low, urgent tones. "We can't leave any traces, Raphael. Everything needs to look like the perfect accident," Marina was saying, clearly nervous. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. She held her breath, trying to hear every word. "I know, Marina. We've discussed this. The gas leak in the kitchen will look like a tragic domestic accident. We'll be far away with a solid alibi." Raphael responded with a coldness Helena had never heard before. "And if something goes wrong?" Marina asked, the worry evident in her voice. "It won't go wrong. Helena is vulnerable. She would never suspect us. Everything is planned for 2 weeks from now," Raphael assured, his voice implacable. Helena felt her world crumble around her. The betrayal was deep, but the threat to her life terrified her. Her mind raced, trying to assimilate the information. She needed to get out of there. She needed to think of a plan. But first, she needed to hear more. "And if she finds out?" Marina insisted. "She won't. And even if she suspects, she won't have time to do anything. Trust me, Marina. In 2 weeks, Helena's fortune will be ours," Raphael said with determination. Helena, feeling her heart race, silently moved away from the door. Her mind was spinning. It was a quiet night, and Helena was alone at home, reading a book in the living room. Raphael and Marina knew this was the perfect opportunity to put their plan into action. Raphael, with an excuse about a work commitment, ensured he would be away that night. He and Marina met in a secluded spot to review the final details. "Is everything ready?" Marina asked, looking anxious. "Yes, I made sure the gas leak was imperceptible but lethal. By morning, the house will look like the scene of a tragic accident," Raphael replied confidently. "We need to be at the public event all night to secure our alibi," Marina reminded, trying to control her nerves. "Don't worry, everything will go as planned," Raphael assured, squeezing her hand. Meanwhile, Helena, unaware of the imminent danger, began to smell a faint odor of gas. She frowned, trying to identify the source. As she got up to investigate, she noticed the smell was coming from the kitchen. She walked slowly towards it, her concern growing with each step. Entering the kitchen, Helena smelled the gas more strongly. Her eyes widened in surprise and fear. She rushed to open the windows, trying to dissipate the gas. But as she turned on the kitchen light, a spark caused an immediate explosion. The explosion was devastating, destroying much of the kitchen and throwing Helena against the wall. The impact was brutal, and she lost consciousness almost immediately. The house was quickly engulfed in flames, turning what was a quiet night into a scene of chaos and destruction. Neighbors, alarmed by the explosion, called the firefighters, who arrived quickly at the scene. They worked tirelessly to control the fire and rescue Helena, but it was too late. Helena did not survive the injuries and the impact of the explosion. Her life was tragically cut short that night. The next morning, Raphael and Marina received the news of the accident with a mix of relief and shock. Maintaining a facade of mourning, Raphael took care of the funeral arrangements, while Marina stayed by his side, disguising her satisfaction with Helena's death. Raphael and Marina believed they would finally inherit her fortune. Helena's wake was held in the town chapel, an elegant and quiet place decorated with white flowers and candles. Friends and family were present, many in shock over Helena's sudden and tragic death. The atmosphere was somber, filled with the sound of sobs and murmurs. Raphael stood by the coffin, dressed in black, with a carefully rehearsed expression of grief. Marina was beside him, maintaining a respectful distance, but their furtive glances revealed underlying tension. They knew they had to act cautiously to avoid raising suspicion. Guests approached the coffin to pay their final respects. Helena looked serene, dressed in a beautiful white gown, her face illuminated by the soft candlelight. As people said their goodbyes, Raphael tried to appear the devastated husband, but those who knew him well could sense something was amiss. A few days had passed since Helena's tragic death, and Raphael and Marina were beginning to feel more confident. They believed that soon they would be the future millionaires, inheriting Helena's fortune. However, something unexpected happened. Days after Helena's funeral, a calm autumn afternoon was interrupted by a disturbing discovery at the cemetery. Two workers, Jorge and Luis, were carrying out their daily tasks when they noticed something strange in the area where Helena had been buried. "Jorge, do you see this?" Luis asked, pointing to the slightly disturbed soil around Helena's grave. "Yes, Luis. It looks like someone tampered here. We should take a closer look," Jorge replied, frowning. The two workers decided to investigate further. They took their tools and began to carefully dig, not knowing exactly what to expect. After a few minutes of digging, they finally reached Helena's coffin. What they saw left them perplexed. The coffin seemed to have been opened and closed again hastily. "This is very strange, Jorge. We need to open the coffin and see what's going on," said Louise with a growing sense of apprehension. "I agree. Let's do this carefully," replied Jorge with a lump in his throat. Carefully, they opened the coffin. To their astonishment, they found Helena alive, breathing with difficulty and weak, but clearly still alive. Helena slowly opened her eyes, frightened and disoriented. "My God, she's alive!" exclaimed Jorge, incredulous. "Quick, we need help," said Louise, already reaching for the phone to call an ambulance. The news spread quickly. In no time, an ambulance arrived at the cemetery, and paramedics took Helena to the hospital. Meanwhile, the police were called to investigate the incident. Raphael and Marina, still in shock from the reading of the will, received the news that Helena had been found alive at the hospital. Helena was treated, and while recovering, recounted her story. She remembered smelling gas and then the explosion. Apparently, in the chaos that followed, her body was mistakenly declared dead. However, possibly someone from the hospital or the funeral home, realized she was still alive but, for unknown reasons, did not inform anyone and buried her anyway. Ricardo, the lawyer, upon hearing the news, immediately went to the hospital to visit Helena. "Helena, thank God you're alive," Ricardo said, emotional at the sight of her. "Ricardo, it was Raphael and Marina. They tried to kill me," Helena said, tears in her eyes. While Helena recovered in the hospital, Ricardo began working tirelessly to gather evidence against Raphael and Marina. He knew Helena's testimony would be crucial, but he wanted to ensure there was enough evidence to convict them beyond any doubt. First, Ricardo contacted the police and provided all the information he had about Raphael and Marina's relationship, including his suspicions about their behavior before and after Helena's death. The police began an investigation and, with Ricardo's help, assembled a dedicated team for the case. A team of detectives was sent to investigate Helena's house and the cemetery area. They found evidence that the gas leak in the kitchen had been deliberately caused. The forensic team identified tampering with the gas pipes, clearly indicating it was not an accident. Additionally, they found Raphael and Marina's fingerprints on the tools used to sabotage the pipes. Meanwhile, Ricardo gained access to Raphael and Marina's phone records and messages. The messages exchanged between them revealed disturbing details about their plan to murder Helena. In several messages, Raphael and Marina discussed the gas leak, how they would stage the scene, and their future plans after inheriting the fortune. The detectives also discovered that Raphael and Marina had bought plane tickets to flee the country after the will reading, clearly indicating their intention to escape the consequences of their actions. Determined to gather as much evidence as possible, Ricardo convinced some friends and employees of Raphael and Helena to testify. Several of them reported suspicious behavior by Raphael and Marina, both before and after Helena's death. One employee even confessed to overhearing a conversation between the two about finally getting rid of Helena. With all this evidence, Ricardo and the police felt confident in arresting Raphael and Marina. In a carefully planned operation, the two were arrested while attempting to board their international flight. They were taken to the police station, where, confronted with irrefutable evidence, they had no choice but to confess to their crimes. During the trial, the evidence gathered by Ricardo and the police was presented. Helena, still shaken but determined, testified against Raphael and Marina, detailing the abuse and betrayal she suffered. Her courage and strength impressed everyone in the courtroom. Raphael and Marina were convicted of attempted murder and conspiracy. The sentence was severe, ensuring that both would spend many years in prison. Helena, finally free from the threat, felt a mix of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, but the price she paid was high. Ricardo, standing by Helena, promised to continue to support her, ensuring her safety and well-being were always a priority. With her fortune protected and those responsible for her tragedy behind bars, Helena began to rebuild her life, dedicating herself even more to noble and charitable causes, determined to transform her pain into strength and compassion to help others. Helena's story highlights themes of betrayal, survival, and justice. It illustrates how ambition and greed can lead to destruction, but also how courage and determination can triumph over adversity. Helena emerged from her ordeal not just as a survivor, but as a symbol of resilience and justice. She transformed her pain into strength, dedicating her life to noble causes and showing that even in the darkest circumstances, truth and justice can prevail.